Hey, welcome back. I'm Lorne Epstein with the Lorne Epstein Show here at the Unleash Conference in Paris, France, sitting in front of the beautiful, Louvre pyramid. It's gorgeous. Can you see? Is it lit up there? Doesn't that look gorgeous? Can you see it lit up, Apatite?
Yep.
It's gorgeous. Anyway, we're always going to conferences, and we thought we'd pick someplace beautiful. With me today for the first time is Hung Lee. Hung Lee, welcome to the show.
I'm delighted to be here, Lorne.
And Hung Lee has a blog. So, Recruiting Brainfood. If you're a recruiter and you haven't seen Recruiting Brainfood, go to Recruiting Brainfood. It's awesome. How long have you been doing it?
3 years, actually. We passed 3-year anniversary about 3 weeks ago, which I totally forgot about, and I should have announced it. But yeah, we've been doing
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I've had my radio show about 3 years.
Right, amazing. Yeah.
So what had you do it?
You know what? I mean, I actually tried to solve a personal problem with the blog, and the personal problem was simply that there was too much content out there. Great content out on the internet. It was just smothered by all the crap that's out there as well. So I just started to pick up stuff that I thought was actually particularly pertinent to my interest. I archived it, saved it somewhere, and then before I knew it, I had this amazing database of stuff. I just thought to myself, why am I keeping it to myself? I might as well share it to other people. Let's create a newsletter. Let's punch out 10, 12 things per week. They can check it out, and it's kind of like my thinking of what people should be looking at or could be interested in the recruiting world.
Nice.
So started as simple as that.
That's great. With sharing to your community.
Correct.
Which is what we want to talk about, is community. So what comes to mind when you say the word community for you?
You know what? I think a lot of it's a term that's really moved into the mainstream these days, because everyone is thinking about identity a lot more now and thinking about how do we form tribes, how do we form groups. For me, I think recruitment is a group of people self-identify as doing this job and in this industry and tackling these problems. And I guess what I wanted to do with Recruiting Brainfood is to contribute back to that wide group. It is a tough job. It's extremely difficult to start. It potentially is one of those jobs that's over-optimized, meaning that you spend all your time being super productive, always hitting numbers, always getting emails, always getting the candidates in, but that kind of leaves you with very little space to be innovative. And what Recruiting Brainfood is all about is to try and stimulate some of those creative juices. It's Recruiting Brainfood for the week ahead. So you can spend time optimizing in a week, but give me 30 minutes on a weekend. I'm going to try and give you some intellectual stimulation, feed your brain, and make sure you're motivated and inspired to do the work.
So I have a question, because we were going to talk about this, but then maybe you could, let me just ask you. So in my experience of being a recruiter, I started in the 90s, and I kind of found things that worked for me, and I did that. Mm-hmm. And then every once in a while, something new would happen, Monster was starting when I started, and then kind of Boolean search, but little things. Mm-hmm. And I never really made big changes in my recruiting strategy. I always made little ones. And I think I didn't really pay attention to them over time. I always felt like I was doing the same thing. And I found with a lot of recruiters, particularly recruiters that were in my teams, that they didn't want to move quickly in one direction. You'd give them some new tools and new things, and they would just go back to what they were doing. Is that common? And how do we kind of cut through that? How do people let go of the... How do we make it okay for recruiters to experiment and be innovative?
No, it's all about incentives.
Okay.
Our incentives are aligned to say, look, you're gonna figure out how to make money, and we're gonna optimize you for that.
Right.
We don't optimize for creativity or innovation, which basically means, especially if you're in a recruitment agency world, which most of us started off embryonically as recruitment agents, right? I certainly did. You find out how to make money in that job, otherwise you're gone, right? So there's a big winning process in the first 3 months of anybody's job there. The ones that survive that process have already figured out how to make money in recruitment. And your alignment, your incentives are all aligned to do more of that, which is why it's quite frustrating for us to innovate and experiment with new stuff. We are very good at being second movers, third movers, I think, because we figure out quickly, this is a more efficient way to make money. But we're not very good first movers, and I think that's always going to be the case in the agency world. In particular, we're going to be optimized for making money. Someone's going to figure out how to do it in a new way, and then we'll jump on that quick, but we're not going to be the first people.
So how can companies optimize, corporations optimize their recruiters when it's not like a direct cash kind of transaction?
I think we need to shift the mindset of what a recruiter is. I mean, I think in the agency world, I'll make a big distinction here between third-party recruiter and let's say an in-house department.
Yeah, absolutely.
Third-party recruiter, I think, will always be optimized for making the cash. Any brokerage, any third parties.
It's direct. It's obvious.
That's all it is, right? Whether you're a recruitment agency, marketing agency, whatever agency you are, if you're an agent, you're going to be making money. That's the only thing you care about. And that's the only thing you should care about. If you're internal, you have a different set of incentives because you're there to build long-term brand. You're there to build a growing organization. You care more than just putting people in, looking at a sales table or what have you. You're looking at overall performance in the business, or should be incentivized for those things. So I think the employers that are really going to succeed are the ones that are able to incentivize their internal recruitment teams for that long-term building.
Any examples of that?
Hard to pick out examples because I think it's so ephemeral as well. Like it's not institutionalized that this happens. Typically what occurs is that the head of talent comes in and they will create a set of values and they'll grow a team that will do this. But the average tenure for a head of talent in any business, I think, is about 18 months.
Right.
So they move on and take their principles elsewhere, and then someone else comes in and maybe brings some old stuff back in. So I don't want to say, hey, listen, here's one company that's persistently done it over the course of time. I think it's still carried with the heads of department who turn over quite regularly. Kind of similar to a coaching team in sports world. NFL's classic example. Very few teams actually keep a coach for more than 3-4 years. Right, 3 years actually is probably about right, and then they kick out. Apart from let's say the Patriots, they're the only team that actually can say, you know what, we've had a guy there for 25 years, 20 years plus, and this is how we play.
Right.
This is how we do it. Everyone else is fumbling around. And I think that's broadly true of companies.
What's been on your mind in recruiting lately? And what do you feel like is an important subject for folks to be aware of?
I think recruiters really need to think about how they make contact with candidates, how they communicate with candidates. I think the era of being able to do things at volume are really over.
All about relationship, huh?
It's all about building audience, not even a relationship. It's about how do you create relationships where people pay attention to what you have to say. The problem I think recruiters have been trying to tackle is how can we get cleverer at saying it. And what I'm saying is cleverness has a limit. And what we need to do is get to a point where people pay attention to what we say, no matter how clever or not it is. And that's based on whether they trust you or not. And I think that's the challenge for recruiters. They need to think about how do they build trust in this audience that has learned to distrust us.
I think most recruiters, I'm sure you've had this experience, when I call candidates, they don't like it if I'm a headhunter. If I'm an agency recruiter, they're less likely to talk to me than if I'm inside the company, which is one of the reasons I went inside, because I felt like I wanted to have more credibility with candidates and make it easier to hire people. Because even if I made 1 or 2 hires in a month and I made money, it was just so morally disempowering to talk to a lot of people and feel like I am a pariah.
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, I struggle with that. I mean, I did agency for 10 years, and I have to say, over the course of time, even though I thought that I played a very good moral game, I mean, I was certainly in that type of recruiter that would try and professionalize what I was doing. But at the end of the day, the incentives weren't aligned to do that. My incentives as an agent was to make as much money as possible for the company and therefore for myself. And that often meant that everyone else was secondary. Candidate was secondary, client was secondary, everything was secondary. And yeah, it takes, I think, a certain mentality to be able to persist in that world and can succeed. Thankfully, I think we're seeing a new sort of breed of agents come up that have a different philosophy, that are building it a little bit more long term, that are thinking about building community, building audience, and so on,
and trust.
And I think those guys are going to win. In the world that's starting to emerge, I think those are the businesses that will succeed. But not unfortunately, it's simply how the market is. There's still businesses that work it high and fast, and they make a bunch of money and go ahead. What can I say? This is how the system is being set up.
They just send you resumes and hope that you hire somebody.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody is individually at fault. I think it's actually, if I could roll back a little bit when we said, I think it's wrong to say there's a moral dimension necessarily in that. I think there's a lot of good people doing potentially not good things because the incentives are not aligned.
Well, yeah, the systems, right? I mean, exactly what you're
exactly.
saying. So, I mean, if the system is designed to incentivize that behavior, that's the behavior we're going to get.
And the system is shared by all of the participants in the system, including the clients and including the
I'm
candidates.
just going to ask Appetite, can you see us okay? We lit okay? Oh, good, because I know it's getting a little bit dark. But, so, you're going to be going to any particular... So, we're at the Unleash conference, so what do you recommend for the Unleash conference?
You know what? I think Unleash has spent a huge amount of time and energy constantly reinventing and reinvesting in itself. I'm very much looking forward to this conference because it's a return back to Paris after 3 years away. I'm expecting a lot of new stuff. I'm expecting a lot of things that I haven't seen before, so I would be drawn. Of course, it's going to be the big headline speakers. You want to see Josh Person, you want to see all of these great people.
Oh, Sir Bob Geldof?
Oh yeah,
Please,
absolutely. Let's see the headliners, but I'm going to take a random view. I'm going to walk into some stuff that that I'm not even going to look at who's on the list. I'm going to check out who is the new other voices, people I would not necessarily get the headline. Let's have a look at what's happening in those places.
And how can folks subscribe to your blog?
Quite simply, it's recruitingbrainfood.com, free to subscribe, once a week email, sent on Sunday, no sales, no demands, no nothing, just easy, quality, humanly curated content.
And it's good stuff. I mean, just check out recruitingbrainfood.com and subscribe to Hung's once a week blog, email, which happens on Sundays. And thanks for watching. And we're going to give a shout out to our sponsors. So, Smart Recruiters, yay. The Talent Board, Talent Board?
I do know Talent Board.
Yeah, so they just had the awards in DC.
Amazing, yeah.
I mean, phenomenal thing, right? I mean, almost a decade now of them.
And they do a great job of promoting the professionalization of the industry, actually. So they definitely got my support.
Yeah,